This public hearing, conducted by the Committee on Appropriations and Adjudications, will come back to order. Notice of the public hearing was disseminated to all local media outlets via electronic format on Thursday, July the 12th, with a second notice provided on Tuesday, July the 17th. Notice of the hearing was also made known on the Guam Legislature's website. We have two bills on the agenda for this afternoon. One is proposed substitute of Bill number 237-34 COR as substituted by the Committee on Appropriations and Adjudication, Committee on Rules, by request of Maga'låhen Guåhan, the Governor of Guam, in accordance with the Organic Act of Guam. An act making appropriations for the operation of the executive, legislative, and judicial branches of the Government of Guam for fiscal year ending September 30, 2019, making other appropriations and establishing miscellaneous and administrative provisions. Bill number 323, COR, introduced by myself, an act making appropriations for the operation of the executive, legislative, and judicial branches of the Government of Guam for fiscal year ending September 30, 2019, making other appropriations and establishing miscellaneous and administrative provisions. The committee will continue to accept written testimony on this matter. Please provide written testimonies to the Office of the Speaker, Guam Congress Building, 163 Chalansanthapapa, Maga'låhen Guåhan, 96910. They may also be sent electronically via email to senator@senatorbjcruz.com. With everybody's indulgence, I just want to do a short opening statement for those who weren't tuned in this morning when we had the first part of our hearing. I want to thank my colleagues for their presence here today. As I've always stated in the past, there are two main objectives of the legislative body. One, to confirm appointments, and two, to pass the budget. We face extremely challenging fiscal times. Understanding that these fiscal realities will help all of us overcome and achieve the latter objective. Before us today are two competing proposals. One I have dubbed as the responsible budget. In full disclosure, it increases business privilege tax to 5.5%. I'm not hiding that fact from anyone, but what it also does, is it reduces appropriation levels by over $45 million as compared to FY 2018. Doing our best to build these budgets from the ground up, I directed the Office of Budget and Finance and Budget to fund bare-bones operations for all agencies. I had them prioritize foreign bodies as they were requested in the budgets of all the agencies. I told them to take out increments, take out funded vacant positions, and take out nearly all travel. Then I ensured that the funding for rent and utilities were covered for employees to have a place to work and deliver the services to the community. Contractual obligations were funded with a keen eye on ensuring continuing contracts were funded. What you have left is a budget that was reduced by tens of millions of dollars. The other proposal I have is dubbed the reckless budget. It is a budget that reduces revenues and associated spending by about $140 million. This means that non-education agencies and branches would take an immediate 23 to 24% reduction in spending levels. Both proposals have similar language that mandates a hiring freeze, suspends increments and other pay adjustments, prohibits travel with extremely limited exceptions, prohibits the use of government funds on wireless communications with limited exceptions, cuts deputy director positions, and holds the line on spending in the first quarter to 25% to ensure a smooth transition of leadership to the next governor. Additionally, both proposals aim to provide GMHA its requested $30 million subsidy. I may not like either proposal, but the difficult responsibility as chairman of the Appropriations is that I present the facts to you based on the best available data provided to me. And that fact is that the Tax Cut and Jobs Act will reduce our government revenues by about $140 million. It is up to us as a community to decide whether to take a balanced approach to responsibly reduce spending and raise revenue, or recklessly cut deep into the people's and services this government provides to its community. With that, I recognize my Vice Chairman, Senator Uggan, the Vice Speaker of the Legislature, Senator Lahi, Senator Nelson, Senator Lee, and Senator St. Augustine. And before us, we're very honored to have two former members of the legislature, Senator Klitsky and Senator Hope Gostobel, and Ms. Flores, who has come to testify. We'll open with Senator Klitsky. You were first on the list.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker and honorable members of the Committee on Appropriations and Adjudication, my testimony in opposition to Bills 237 and 323 follow. You have contrasted the bills as reckless and irresponsible, or was it responsible? These words are as applicable to our government, but only the last is necessary. The current approach seems to be that this honorable body must find enough money to keep the government running. Any government that does nothing more than keep running is in a sense a perversion of the word government. The word service has to have some importance. I submit what to some may deem a radical proposal, good government, which is an effective, efficient government that provides basic services in accordance with the rule of law on at least a break-even basis. This august body, by passing Public Law 34-87 at Section 5, has finally prioritized. I'll limit my comments to 101E, leaving the rest of Group 1 in your competent hands. Okay. Both bills before you tonight start well by setting off the Department of Education in a separate chapter with a lump sum appropriation. I offer a humble suggestion to the language in that chapter. 14 points must be central to any appropriation to the Department of Education. While 14 points can stand on their own bottom, they are also the embodiment of good government set out above. I offer for either bill a beginning for Chapter 2. Section 1, Appropriation. It is the intention of Maga'låhen Guåhan to provide a lump sum appropriation to the Guam Department of Education for fiscal year 2019 in recognition of its own responsibility and the responsibility of the Superintendent of Education and the Guam Education Board to ensure compliance with the mandates of 48 U.S.C. Section 121G, subsection B, and the provisions of the Every Child is Entitled to an Adequate Public Education Act. Section 2. Again, this is proposed language for the bill. The sums appropriated by this chapter are first dedicated to compliance with those items of the Every Child Act described at 1 GCA 715 L 1 through 14. That is the 14 points. Section 3. No expenditure of funds appropriated by this chapter shall be expended in any month absent the certificate of the Superintendent of Education made on the first business day of the month that he has allocated funds necessary for compliance with Section 2, that is the 14 points. Section 4, the Superintendent of Education shall, in addition to the certificates required by Section 3, post the status of the compliance with the 14 points every Friday in tabular and graphic form on the Guam Education Board website. Section 5. Suit shall lie pursuant to 5 GCA Section 7103, that's the enforcement of proper government spending, for violation of Sections 2 and 3. An effective, efficient government that provides basic services in accordance with the rule of law on at least a break-even basis. So respectfully submitted, Bob.
Thank you very much, Senator. Senator Cristobal.
Sidzus Masi and Mr. Speaker for conducting this hearing on these two bills, Substitute Bill 237-34 as corrected and 323-34 as corrected. First of all, I just would like to say that we've just learned about this public hearing about 30 minutes ago. We have, I'm the chairperson for the Comisión Ifinutsumoru zan ifinanagwin I Historia zan ilinala itautautono, and I would like to introduce Terry Flores, who's a member of the Cultural Committee, and Senor Peter Onidera, who are both directors of the Commission. We are here because we have been working frantically to find ways to encumber the rest of our monies before the FY rolls over, the fiscal year 18 rolls over. Out of the $238,000 that have been appropriated for the Commission, we have only been able to spend just a little over $23,000 for the purpose of our mandated travel to interface with the CNMI Language, Chamorro, and Carolinian Language Policy Commissions. We have been sitting down and working with the assistance of Ms. Marilyn Regis at Department of Chamorro Affairs and assistance from people at the Department of Administration to find ways by which we can make sure that we protect the funds that you have appropriated for FY18 for the Commission. At this point in time, we are moving monies from one object category to the next. We're getting quotes. We're doing our darndest to be able to meet the procurement requirements of GSA in order to be able to meaningfully use our monies. At this point in time as well, we noticed that this bill allows us to hire employees, and you, on section 11 of your bill, Mr. Speaker, you have allowed us to hire an executive director and staff positions for the Commission, yet we must do this by September 1st. And right now we have about a month for all intents and purposes to do all of this. We again want to impress on you how hard we have been working to use up our funding because we have much work ahead of us. We will not be able to do all the work that we have stipulated in our strategic plan that we submitted to the legislature on June 13, just a month or so ago, if we do not have the funding. We appreciate the $202,200 that is slated for FY19 by you, Mr. Speaker, but if I may, I would, and I don't have it with me right now, I would like to resubmit our testimony at the public hearing on June 13 as testimony to justify further funding. At this point as well, I would like to, and I didn't find it in this very thick bill, but I would like to see some provision that would allow the Commission or would give the Commission authority to carry over unencumbered funds from FY18 to FY19. We believe that we don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but I don't think it's going to be that much. But I want you to know that all the monies that you have appropriated for the Commission is spoken for in terms of the activities and the projects that we have listed in our strategic plan that we submitted last June 13. So I have my two board members here, and if they want, they may testify, but basically that's what we're asking. We're asking for some way that we can receive authority, the Commission, to carry over unencumbered funds to FY19 so we can complete our projects.
I've purposely left out continuing appropriations.
Yes, I understand that.
Purposely. For everybody.
Yeah.
And so I think there may have been an attempt to try to put one in. I can't remember, but I thought I specifically even gave instructions to remove that provision, because whatever was saved this year can't be spent next year, because otherwise there was nothing saved this year. If you're going to be able to carry it and get the money next year. So does anybody have any questions of the two senators? No? Did either one of you wish to testify?
For over 4 hours.
As our chairman of the commission has stated, we knew about this about half an hour ago and so forth, and we actually came from our own meeting just discussing pertinent issues pertaining to the budget that we had on hand and everything like that. And at this point in time, I will say that as a member of the board of the commission, we're quite honestly not going anywhere pretty much as it stands. We have a lot of ideas, we have a lot of proposals, we've got a lot of programs and projects that are right out there that we have talked about, discussed to great lengths, and have brainstormed some more, and bearing in mind the odds of even achieving any single one of them. Even at this point with employees or even an office or even pretty much anything that will allow us the opportunity to move ahead, it doesn't appear promising. And I hate to be the one that's going to say that it's a discouraging thing to deal with, but nevertheless, we are here to do our work, and we have been working. And yes, we have been holding pretty much marathon meetings and gatherings just to discuss our stand and our budget and where we are at this point as a commission. And I'm just here to urge consideration of whatever sort you can provide us, so we can have at least some inkling of a breathing space to deal with, to work with, if anything, for the near and far future, if anything. Adzuha amalago pabe sangan gwini na momento.
Mr. Speaker, if I may add, I forgot to state that today, this afternoon, I ran over here to sign the MOU between the legislature and the commission to use the old Guam Museum building as an office space. We don't have any other home. We haven't had a home for a whole year. We've been busy getting trained as board members. We're busy learning about the procurement, GSA procurement procedures. We're trying to do the right thing. At first, we were certifying officers, and then they took That was taken away, and we were told it's DOA that certifies our funds, and our funds were moved from BBMR over to DOA. So we've been having to deal with a lot of, you know, setting it right, doing the right thing on government procurement. And we want to abide as much as possible and being compliant with every law there is in the books. But it's been over a year since we have begun our work. Most of it is, we haven't even received any stipends. We haven't been able to juggle that out of our budget yet. So we have accomplished a lot just through our own, you know, devices. And we really do need, out of this $230,000 that you have appropriated for FY18, we've only been able to spend $23,000. And so we're going to lose all of our funds because this is already, we have August, September, we have 2 months to use up the rest of our fundings. And as you know, any contracts, any information for bids, any kind of those types of transactions take more than 2 months. And so we have really been put in a precarious situation in terms of our own programs and even our own existence as Commission to be able to accomplish our mandate. So we're here to beg you about this carryover authorization that we're asking, ways to find out, I mean, to find ways to expand our funds, because we can't do it. We've just...
We can only appropriate from here. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Guzman, did you wish to testify? I just signed in. I thought you were going to testify.
Yes. Buenas and Hafade, members of the legislature. My name is Clifford Guzman, and I'm here to testify on both bills. Not necessarily for or against, because I do know the situation, the dire situation that we are in right now. We're very, very much challenged. But I think that it's important to understand also that there are a lot of needs out there. I think this is probably one of the most perplexing situation that I've ever seen the government budget put in. And it's unfortunate that we're here, some of it by our own making, a lot of it by our own making, and a lot of it by outside forces, again, coming to bear and swinging the hammer down on us in the form of these tax reliefs that are affecting us negatively. Having said that, you have a big challenge ahead of you, and you know, it's going to take a lot of verve. It's going to take a lot of courage to get through it. And it's not only this body that's going to have to deal with it. The current administration is going to have to deal with it as well. But as you go through your deliberations, as you go through and figuring out how we're going to either reshape the government or our spending habits or however that's going to shake out, I only ask that you do give consideration to the efforts that organizations like the Commission and others, things like the museum that are finally getting a hold and can be self-sufficient if it's given the right help. And there's a lot of work and effort and heart that's gone into that by all members of the community, and it's an iconic building, but it's not about the building, it's about our people in the end. And it's about what we represent, what that represents about our people. And there are a lot of organizations out there. I know that the TAF is also being looked at very seriously, and I know that there have been a lot of pass-through amounts that have been given to cultural organizations, you know, arts, humanities. I please ask that you don't forget those as we go through. I realize that public safety, health, the welfare of our people, education, those are top priorities. Nobody's going to argue that. But the arts, the humanities, our culture, our language does play a big part in who we are and who these people that we're going to educate are going to be, and who these people that we're going to heal, how they're going to heal, because there are a lot of things in our culture that help in the healing process. And of course, the safety is about community, and that's who we are. We are an island community. And all of that is tied to our culture and who we are. We're no different than any other community except for one thing. We live on an island, we've been through a lot together, and our familial histories are important to all of us. And it is the basis for who we are. So I only ask that you take a look at that, a strong look at that, and make sure that there are, understand that there are organizations that if we can't afford to give everybody what they've been giving, then give them an opportunity to compete for it. That's the way I look at it. At least they can compete on, hopefully we'll be able to create a fair ground for it, and hopefully, maybe there's not going to be a whole lot of money for them to put out, but if they compete for it, maybe that'll work. I can only speak on how we've been able to enjoy money from the TAF, the $25,000 appropriation that's been given to the Guam Unique Merchandise and Arts every year. We've created 19 new businesses, local businesses, with a minimum of 2 local indigenous employees per business. And they've opened stores, they're operating, they're making money. So that $25,000 investment from my perspective is the best investment this government's ever made as far as I'm concerned. Because we're actually getting a return on that investment. And we get a return on the cultural groups, we do, because as part of the destination management team over at GVB, what do we have to sell except hotel rooms and some sand on the beach? We've got to think about that as well. And I know when it comes to priorities, they're not the highest of priorities when we're facing health, education, welfare challenges. But where there is some opportunity, I only hope that you'll look at that. We're doing our part. We're going out, we're trying to reach out to national state agencies and trying to get grants and all of the things that are above. And it might be that maybe the only way we're going to be able to help some of these nonprofit and cultural and indigenous organizations is that we'll provide the matching part for a grant that you're going to go after. Maybe it comes to that. I guess where I'm going with this is we can't forget that, that's a big part of who we are, and that's a big part of our economy, or we always say that, so we got to continue to prove it, or work to get it to that point where it's not questioned anymore. And I for one, our organization has poured our heart into the Guam Museum. And I hope that you consider that as we go along. We can't have a $27 million boondoggle sitting on our hands that, we can't afford to keep operational. And from my perspective personally, having government run it is not the right way to go either. Because the government, unfortunately, does not have the flexibility that the private sector does. We can get things moving right away. We can get people here right away. We can do the things we need to do that a government can't, our government can't. So I just ask, and I'm here to plead with all of you to not forget those things that make us who we are, to not forget those icons that showcase our pride, our heritage, our culture, our arts. They're all important, but as you go through the deliberations, and I'm sorry we're in this situation now. It's sad for all of us, and we need to stop us. We've got to stop being in this situation, and hopefully you all can set the first step forward in making that happen. And it's going to be hard for all of us, but please, I beg of you, don't forget things. The Commission Chamorro is just as important as the Guam Museum, and it's just as important as GUMA, creating jobs and new businesses and new tax revenues for our island from small businesses, local indigenous small businesses. And I just kind of wanted to give my perspective on things. And again, I wish you all the best in the deliberations. And undang si Diyos masin ang naayos din na oportunidad pabikwento sa paganadia. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions? If not, I thank everybody for coming this afternoon, this evening. It's 6:45. This hearing is adjourned.